Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's tutorial is really special. It's on this double welt pocket with flap, which I made on this odd muse dress that I created for a client and decided to create a tutorial with it. I know as a total beginner this might seem like a complicated thing to make, but I promise you that after watching this tutorial, a double welt pocket with flap is going to be very easy for you to make. With that being said, let's get right into this tutorial. These are all the pieces you'll be needing to create your double welt pocket with flap. I'll be telling you what each of these pieces are used for and their measurement. This and this is the pocket bag. We'll be using the smaller piece to complete the pocket bag. You'll understand further in the tutorial. This right here is the pocket flap. This one that opens and closes up like this. And this part is opened up, but it's meant to be on fold, which we'll be folding later in the tutorial. This smaller two piece here is what we are going to use to create opening for the welt pocket. As you can see here, I have double of everything. This is because we are making two welt pocket, hence the name double welt pocket. For the measurements for this bigger one here, I have 8 inches for the width, and for the length I have 14 inches. This particular part will be folding into two. Just make sure that it is big enough to contain your hand to an extent. So it doesn't have to be so big, it doesn't have to be so small. It should just be the right side for your pocket. For this smaller piece of pocket here, for the length I have 8 inches also, and for the width I have 5 inches. For the pocket flap, for the width I have 7 inches, and then for the length I have 9 inches. This I've told you earlier will be folding into two to get this flap, and here folding it you can see that I have 12.5 and half inch is for the stitching allowance, hence my flap is 4 inches. For the smaller pieces I have 1.5 inch for the length, and the width I have 7.5 inches. I'll go ahead now and iron hairstay to the pocket flap and these two little pieces for the welt pocket opening. I won't be ironing hairstay to the pocket bag. I'm done ironing my hairstay, and as you can see, this little piece for creating the welt opening, I placed it on fold. Make sure that when doing yours that you fold this after ironing your hairstay, and I've also done this to other piece. For the flap pocket, I've also ironed hairstay to it and I've folded it. This is how you should do yours because this is how we'll be using it. For the pocket bags, I didn't iron any hairstay to this because you don't need to iron hairstay to this. Now let's go ahead and create our welt pocket. This is the front piece of the dress on which I'll be creating the double welt pocket with flap. This will be starting after the dot line here, and we'll be recreating the welt pocket exactly the way it is on the odd muse dress. Now the first thing you will notice with the flap pocket here is that it has little pocket going towards the center and more of it towards the side. Another thing you will notice is towards the side the welt pocket is going upward. It's kind of slanted, and that is what we'll be recreating. The first thing we'll be doing here is to note of the length of our pocket, and I'll be using 6 inches for the length of my pocket. I'll be putting 2 inches towards the center and 4 inches to the side. This is going to help us to get the effect of less of the pocket to the center and more of it towards the side. Now I'm going to be connecting this with a straight line just underneath the dot. After doing that, I'll be measuring what I have here to be sure that it is 6 inches I have. Now to get that slant on the dress, like the welt pocket on the old muse dress, I'm going to come up from this side by half of an inch. I'll just mark that there and I'll connect it into those points using my rule. After doing that, to complete the rectangle, I'm going to come down from this point using half inch, and then I'm going to connect it back into this point. And as you can see here, we have our rectangle to create the welt pocket. I'll be doing the same thing to this other side of the welt pocket. Now that I'm done creating it, you can see that what we have here is kind of slanted upwards towards the side. Now the next thing I'll be doing is to iron paper gum to this part that I drew something but at the back. This is going to help to give it more structure. So I'm just going to note the point where this drawing is at the back. Now I'm going to place my paper gum there and I'm going to iron this down. This is what I have after ironing that. Now I'm going to be creating my welt pocket. I'll just be taking out my pocket bags and my pocket flap, and I'll be working on these little tiny pieces I'll be using to create the welt opening. What I'll be doing here is to mark 0.25 inch, which is half of half inch from this folded part. I'll be marking it on both sides and I'll be connecting with a straight line. Note that you're marking 0.25 inch from this folded part and you'll be joining it together with a straight line, just like you see me doing here, and I'll do that on each of these pieces that I have here. I'm done marking the 0.25 inch on each of these pieces. Now 2 of these is for each side of the welt pocket. Now what I'm going to do is to bring the 2 pieces this way, and I'll be taking the measurement I have on my welt pocket on my dress to make sure that I have 6 inches, and as you can see I have 6 inches here. I'll be dividing this into 2 and I'll be marking it on the welt pocket just like this. I'll connect this with a straight line just so I take note of the midpoint of my welt pocket. Now what I'll be doing here is to take one piece, and this line I have on this little piece, I'll be placing it on this line here. I'm going to make sure that this line on the little piece is placed directly on this line here, and I'm going to be stitching it down. I'll first of all notch the midpoint just so I place the notch exactly at the midpoint on my welt pocket and stitch it down. You understand better, but let's go to the machine to sew this down. As you can see here, I've already sewn down the first one. I'll be showing you how I'll do the second one, which is the second piece here. I'm going to place the notch part on the midpoint, and I'm going to make sure that this line, the 0.25 inch I mark on this little piece, is exactly on the line at this top part, and I'll be stitching it down just like you will see me doing here. After stitching it down, I'm going to turn this over to the back part, and you can see the 2 lines I have running down here. I'm going to take my scissor and I'm going to create a little opening just like this here, and using my scissor also I'm going to open this up just like you see me doing until I get to like ½ inch before the end of the stitch. Now I'm going to cut a Y-like shape. I'm going to cut a Y-like shape just like this, not entirely. Don't cut your stitch, just exactly before you get to your stitch, just stop. I'm going to do it to the other side. Cut it until you get to almost ½ inch before the stitches stop. Then you cut it this way in a Y shape and the other way without cutting your stitch. Now this is going to help you to turn what you have in front over to the back. It will help it to look neat without it looking so funny. And I'm going to fold this in just like you see me doing here. As you can see here, it's easier for it to fold in. If you don't cut it in a Y shape, it won't fold in easily and your welt pocket is not going to come out well. After folding it in, I'm going to take it to the back, and what I'll be doing is to secure each of the edges to make sure that it sits pretty in front. If you don't secure the edges, it won't stay. Okay, so I'll be putting the 2 pieces together, and this Y looking shape thing, these are the 3 things I'll just stitch down together. Make sure that when stitching this down, you don't stitch your fabric, because if you stitch your fabric with this, it will not come out nice. So you need to make sure that it's just the 2 piece and the Y shape thing that you are stitching together. I'll do this to the other side just like this. After doing it, you can see what we have here. You can see how pretty it's looking. I'm just going to show you guys what I stitched down. I'll turn this over to the front, and now we are done creating our welt pocket opening. The next thing I'll be doing is to insert my flap, my pocket flap. And to insert the pocket flap, it's pretty easy. All you just need to do is to take the measurement of the welt opening you have on your dress, and here I have 6 inches. I'll also be taking the measurement of what I have on the width of my flap. Here I have 7 inches. So ½ inch I'll be using to stitch down on both sides of this flap. I'll just be marking ½ inch on this side, and on this side also I'll be marking it on the top just like this, and I'll be connecting this with a straight line. And you can see that what I have here using my tape to measure is 6 inches, so we are good. I'll go ahead now and stitch this down on my machine just like you will see me doing here. After stitching the both flap pockets, I'll go ahead and trim out the excess I have and turn this over and give this a really good press. After giving it a good press, I'll bring back my dress and I'll turn it over to the wrong side. I'll notch the midpoint of my pocket flap just like this. Then after doing that, I'll place this at the upper part of my welt pocket opening, making sure that the notch part of my flap is touching the notch part just like you see me doing here. Now I'll stitch this down using ½ inch stitching allowance. After stitching this down, I'm going to turn it over to the right side and bring out the welt pocket just like this. Now I'll be attaching my pocket bag, and to do that I'll be attaching this little one to the bigger one. I'll place it this way and mark where it stopped on top of this place, and I'll turn it over this way, making sure that it's about ½ inch above the mark I placed, just like you see me doing here. Now I'm going to stitch this down on my machine using 0.5 inch stitching allowance. After stitching this down, I'm going to turn it over this way, and I'm also going to stitch this down together like this. Now I'll be trimming off the excess I have on my pocket. The next thing I'll be doing now is to bring in my dress, and this part that has an extra fabric, I'll be notching the midpoint. This is the side I'll be attaching to the upper part of the welt pocket. So I'm going to place the notch point there, and I'm going to stitch this down using ½ inch stitching allowance, just like I did to the flap. The other side, I'll be notching the midpoint also, and I'll be attaching it to the lower part, making sure that the notch points are together. Now after doing that, the next thing I'll be doing is just to secure the sides of my pocket bag, just like you see me doing here. I'll just go ahead now and trim out the excess of what I have here. Now our double welt pocket with flap is ready. This is pretty easy to make. Just make sure you follow this step by step and try and practice, and you are good. The next tutorial I'll be posting is going to be on this odd knee dress. You don't want to miss this. Make sure you turn on your post notification to get notified when I share this tutorial. Make sure to like, make sure to comment if this was helpful, or if you have any questions, share this to family and friends who you think will need this. I'll see you guys in my next one.